Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Stitch Sessions. Today I thought I would take you through a very short tutorial on how to do a new stitch. And that stitch is the V stitch. It's really pretty if you want to create something a little bit more on the lacy side. And it's actually quite easy, but it will create a really kind of more advanced effect. So I know you'll be excited to try that out. Okay, so for this project, I'm just using some leftover medium 4-weight yarn and one of my favorite hooks, a 5mm crochet hook, also known as an H or an 8. Okay, so to create our V stitch, we need to create a foundation chain row in multiples of 3 plus 4. So whenever you hear that in a pattern or a tutorial, when they say you need multiples, it just means you need sets of that number. So in this case, we're doing multiples of 3. So that means you're going to do sets of 3, and you do as many sets of 3 as you need for your particular project, if you're doing a scarf or a blanket or a hat. So I'm going to do 12 stitches. So that is 4 sets of 3. And this pattern is multiples of 3 plus 4. Okay, so that means that once I've done my sets of 3 that I need, I will then add an additional 4 chains. Okay, so we're going to begin by placing a slip knot on our hook, just like that. And so I'm going to do, like I said, multiples of 3, and I'm going to do 4 sets of 3 plus 4. So 4 sets of 3 is 12, plus an additional 4 is going to be 16. So I'm going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's my multiple of 3. Now I'm going to add 4 more. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and I'll explain to you why in a moment we're adding 4 more at the end. So what we want to do right now is we want to find the 5th chain away from your hook. So you never count the chain, you never count the loop that's on your hook. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we're going to place a double crochet into that stitch. So you're going to yarn over first, insert your hook into that chain, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through the first 2, yarn over and pull through the second 2. So you've created your first double crochet here. So you're going to see that these chains here look like they're bowing out. Don't worry about it. I will explain to you very shortly why that's there. So we're going to create our V, our very first V. So once you've done your double crochet, you want to chain 1. Then you're going to place another double crochet back into the very same stitch. So you go back into that same stitch, and don't worry, it's going to stretch. It's going to look a little bit wonky. That's a-okay. So you're going to resolve your double crochet like you normally would. Okay, so you can see now it creates that V shape. So that's why we have that chain 1 in the center there. Okay, moving along, we now want to skip the next 2 chains. So we have 1, 2, and into the third one, we're going to place another V stitch. So that means we're going to place a double crochet. And of course, you always want to make sure you yarn over first. We'll then chain 1 and a double crochet again back into that same stitch. Okay, so you pull through 2 and you pull through the next 2. Okay, so now you've created 2 V's and you've got this little post here on the end. Then we continue on. So this is your V stitch, and this is how you would do this all the way down your foundation chain row, which this is probably the trickiest part of it. Once we get into row 2, you're off to the races. But for now, we want to remember that we skip 2 chains, and into the third one, we place a V stitch. And that consists of a double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Whoops. Just like that. So you're going to do that till you get all the way down to the end of your row. And for me, this is going to be my last one. So I'm going to skip to 1, 2, and into the third one. I will place my V-stitch. So if you're doing 20 or 80 of these V's, you go all the way down to the end. So if you're using this to make a nice long scarf or a nice lacy blanket would be pretty too, or a baby blanket. Okay, so there's my last V. So it looks something like that. Okay, when you come to the end of your row, you should have 2 stitches left, and that is correct. So what you're going to do is you are going to yarn over, and you're going to skip the next stitch and into that last stitch. Remember, that's the knot there, so don't get those confused. Into the last stitch, you are going to place 1 double crochet. And so the double crochet at the end acts as just like a flanking post. So you've got a double crochet here. And remember this one here that was bowing out these chains? Well, this chain 4, okay, so the 1 chain will act as the spacer, and the 1, 2, 3, that represents the height of a double crochet stitch. And that's why we had to add the additional 4 at the end, so that it bends up and then allows us the height to continue on. Now, right now it's kind of bowing out, but don't worry about that. That will straighten out with more rows. So let's go on to row 2, which will be the same for every other row as long as you want to make this project, okay? So anytime you come to the end of your row, you're going to chain 3, and you're going to turn your work, okay? Now it's super easy. We've done our establishing row, and what we're going to do is we're going to find that chain 1 space of our V, and we're going to place another V inside that V, okay? You'll chain 1 and insert. Okay, so this right here is the V-stitch. And once we do V's inside of V's, there's actually a name for this particular pattern it creates. I can't think of it right now, but I will look it up and make sure that I stick it up right there. So that's what gives it a nice lacy look. So you're off to the races. Once you've got your first row established, you're always just going to find your chain 1 space inside your V. You're not going to go into this space. You're going to go inside the V. So you place your hook, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Okay, into the next V. Double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. And you see it becomes super easy because they're so much easier to find now once you've established that first round. And we've got a few projects coming up the next little while where you will come across this V-stitch pattern. And we'll show you how you can incorporate this into different types of patterns, whether it's scarves or tops or hats. Okay, so we've done the last one, and now we've got this chain 3 here. So what we want to do is we want to find the top of the chain 3. Now it's the back, so sometimes it's hard to see, so I like to turn it over. And this belongs to the stitch here. So that was the one on the bottom. Then we count 1, 2, and 3. So that is the stitch we are going to work into. Whoops. Just turn over. So there we go. That's the stitch I'm going to work into for my last double crochet. Just like that. Okay, so you can see it straightened itself out a little bit more. And then, of course, You're at the end of your row. This is what you're going to do for every row. You'll chain 3 and you'll turn your work and you continue on. So you place a V inside the next V. And it's always a double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Now there are some patterns that I've seen where people will chain 2 to create a wider V, but that will affect your initial chain count at the beginning. So if you're doing that, you would then need to make sure that your chain row, your foundation chain row is done in multiples of 4. So remember, we did it in multiples of 3 because this V represents 3 stitches. You have the double crochet, the chain stitch, and the other double crochet. So that's 3 stitches. So that's why we needed to do it in multiples of 3, and that's what helps the bottom edge of your work stay nice and straight. Okay, so I'll just finish this row here just to kind of give you guys the effect of how these stitches look so pretty once they're layered one on top of the other. And of course you can do this in a variety of different ways. You can incorporate the V stitch with a few other stitches, like when we talk more about fans and shells and lacy fans, you're going to see this V stitch come up a lot. So it's just a wee bit beyond a basic stitch, but it is, I would say, definitely a staple, should be a staple in your crochet repertoire. Okay, so here we are. We're back to the chain 3 again. So we find the top, we yarn over, insert, and do our last double crochet. And there you have it. The V stitch, guys. Isn't that pretty? So lovely. So I hope you've been able to see just how easy and quick this stitch is. And I think you'll have a lot of fun working on this. And I'm really curious to see what kind of projects you are going to create with this stitch. So thanks for coming along, guys. And remember that if you haven't pressed that subscribe button, make sure that you do so that you always stay up to date on all of our free crochet tutorials. You can also find a lot more information on our website, which is crochetcrafty.com. And you can sign up for our newsletter where we always give away 1 free crochet pattern every month. And as usual, you can find us on Instagram, on Facebook, all of that fun stuff. Don't forget, we are also now offering a live interactive online crochet class, which we usually do in about 4-week series. All the info on our website, a link down below. All right, guys, have a wonderful day. Happy crocheting. Enjoy your new stitch, and I'll see you guys in the next session. Take care.